This is sermon number 2 for me this week. I'll be preaching 3 different sermons. I preached one at Neponset this morning. I'm preaching this one, and then tomorrow night, I'm actually preaching from this series, but it's a different one. It's a different color. Tomorrow night at the prison for the guys. And so bear with me a little bit here. My throat's starting to get a little tired. If I start getting a little raspy, I apologize. But let's just start talking about the colors of Christmas and how they help us to ask in a real honest way, what's the big deal about Jesus coming anyways? Now, one of the colors you like to see a lot at Christmas is you like to see green, okay? And you see the green Christmas trees, green garland, green candles, green Christmas lights, frosted cookies, green in the retailers and stores have green everywhere. Plus, they're also hoping to make a lot of green also, too, right? And I saw somebody in church last week. I don't know if you know this guy. He was here. I took a picture of him. He claims he knows Santa Claus. I don't know if that's true or not, but he claims to know him. And I was also trying to think of some other ways of how can we think of some songs about the color green. And I was like, man, I could pitch these to Lance and maybe he'll sing them for us. But, first one I thought of was Kermit the Frog, It Ain't Easy Being Green. But it's kind of a depressing song, so I didn't think it was a good one to sing. Then I remembered a song from the 70s called Green-Eyed Lady, and then I read the lyrics, and I thought that's not a good song to sing at church. But there's a great Christmas song called Green Sleeves. It's beautiful, but it's hard for most of us to sing. But when we think of the color green, we think of new life, new growth, and new possibilities, right? And human beings, we are into things that are new, and that's why we Americans will spend over $1 trillion this year at Christmas, because little kids, big kids too, like opening Christmas gifts because they know they're getting something new. Everybody wants stuff that's new, all right? Let's be honest with each other here, right? We all like new things, okay? As soon as something new comes out, not that new things, lose their luster, right? I mean, you're all happy when you had your iPhone 14, but then what happened? The iPhone 15 came out, and what did everybody do? You flocked to get a 15. I flocked out and got a brand new iPhone 13 because it was on special. $8, $45, $8 works for me. I recently read that somebody had won $2 billion in the Powerball jackpot. Now, I know, I'm pretty confident with the people here in this church that if you won big like that, you would make sure you honor God and you tithe 10% of that, right? You make sure that got to the church. But I'm also pretty confident saying that you probably would go out and have bought something brand new for yourself, right? The dream of the matching pickup truck paint job with the boat, with the matching paint job, with the matching trailer cover on top. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's in my dreams someday. But I think we'd all go out and we'd all buy something new, whether it be a new house, a new car, a new boat, new clothes. Okay, let's be honest. There's probably somebody that would go out and probably buy themselves a plastic surgeon and make themselves brand new. And honestly, going into this Christmas season, I think that's how a lot of people are feeling. Like, I need something new. I need a new me, a new beginning. Well, the best part about Christmas is that Christmas is all about that God is into something new, okay? And I was thinking this week about all the phrases recorded in the historical record of the Bible that talks about new. A new song, a new birth, a new creation, a new command, a new hope, a new covenant, a new wine skins, a new heaven, a new earth. Jesus said, behold, I am making all things new. But the truth of the matter is, instead of feeling like you're full of new life and new growth and new hope, perhaps going into the season, you're feeling more like this. You're feeling like it's an old, dead stump. In some way or another, this is how some people feel this season. And in some areas of our life right now, there's just an old dead stump, and maybe it's 2 or 3. I don't know what it is that's going on in your life, okay? I can't say. But it's like the picture is bleak. And it may feel like there's not even a glimmer of hope right now. And we look at the divisive spirit of our country right now, where people with opposing views have forgotten how to talk kindly to each other. And we know we need something new. And we look at the terrorism, we look at violence, we look at the wars, the international tension that leave us feeling bleak, hopeless, We pray for something new. I mean, you turn on the news, it's just what you have to do anymore. Okay? Maybe it's within your marriage. Maybe you thought you'd be married by now. Or some of you girls, maybe you thought you have that engagement ring by now. I don't know. Maybe for you, it's the person you see when you look in the mirror that has you feeling lifeless inside. I heard about this guy who stood in front of the mirror, and he's all depressed by what he sees and when he sees himself. And he says to his wife, look at me. He says, I'm old, I'm fat, I'm ugly, and honey, I could really use some encouragement right now. And she says, well, it appears that your eyesight is very good. You know, the truth is, when some of us look in the mirror, we look at our past mistakes, our bad choices, the messiness of our life, and we let that define who we are. See, maybe the thing that has you feeling dead inside are family issues. It's easy to drive by another person's home during the Christmas season and see the beautiful lights, see a beautiful tree, and you start to think, man, they are having the perfect, beautiful, stress-free Christmas. And I bet they aren't fighting about gifts. I bet they're not stressed about money. I bet they aren't worried about not having a job, or maybe it's wounds from your family of origin that you still carry. I don't know, maybe you had an alcoholic father or a raging father or an abusive or absent parent. I don't know. I heard about a funeral not long ago, and it was a guy about my age. He got up to talk about his dad. And his dad was extraordinarily successful in building a business and providing financial affluence for his family, but he neglected some of the most important stuff. And at the funeral, his son said, fighting back tears, he said, a few days before my dad died, I said the words to my dad I had never heard from him. I love you. And this guy buried his dad, and never one time in his life hearing the words from his dad, I love you. You know, I've been doing this pastor thing, all right? I really want to say I've been a pastor for 18 years, but I've been doing this pastor thing for 18 years. And the number one sin that I find over and over again that people have a hard time getting past is sexual sin. I've talked about this. We did a whole series about this. There's somebody in your past, or maybe lots of somebodies, and that you did something with. You might not even know their name anymore. Maybe you do know their name, and you thought they'd be around for a while because they told you they would. But now they're gone, and you feel dead inside. For others, it's an addiction. Maybe it's prescription meds, alcohol, meth, crack, coke. Maybe it's pornography, okay? But every time you're about to break free, you look in the mirror and all you see is the addict, and you start to feel dead inside. Or maybe for you, it's bitterness. Someone hurt you, betrayed you, trashed you, they abandoned you, they terminated you, and every time you look in the mirror, all you see is what they did to you, and you hate them for it. You see this stump over here, it represents people who have given up hope. And that's pretty much where God's people found themselves about 700 years before Jesus' birth in Bethlehem. See, those people were a lot like us. On the one hand, they wanted to walk with God, and yet they got impatient. And sometimes gave up on God, and who said that he would send a Messiah, and he would bring hope and life, and he would make all things new. And they were like, awesome. We'll wait for you. We're going to wait for this. But they got impatient, like we do sometimes. And sometimes we get tired of waiting on God to do what we think he should do, and when he should do it. The prophets had said that the Messiah would come from the house and lineage of David, who was the son of Jesse. But when they looked at the family tree of Jesse, they saw nothing but an old dead stump. They thought there ain't nothing coming out of that dead stump. There's no green, there's no hope, there's no new life in sight. And to the people like this, God gave this word in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1 and 2, where it says, a shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. Now God says a shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear the fruit, and the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. And I want you to notice that this promise right here, 700 years ago. Now, you may feel like an old dead stump inside right now, but there's a branch. I don't know if you noticed this, but when you actually look in your Bible, I didn't make a mistake. The branch is actually capitalized, okay? There's a capital B, a branch with a capital B that will come to bring new life and bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the branch. Now, here's what I'm praying that you guys will kind of grasp and internalize today. God brings new life out of old dead stumps in his timing through his Son. And I think the hardest part about this whole process is just waiting on God's timing. Now, I've been a follower of Jesus for a long, long time. From the earliest time I can remember, I think I've always been in or around church or at a church function. But I could tell you that 99 times out of 100, God's timing is different than my timing, okay? Has anybody else noticed in Galatians 4:4, it says, but when the time had fully come, God sent his Son born of a woman. Okay, literally what it's saying is, for this to happen, time had to be perfect. Time had to be ready. So God sent his Son to be born into the world, but the timing had to be right when time was fully ready. When Jenny and I got married, and we decided that children were in our future, okay? We have 2 daughters and a son now. And I never thought, or I never processed or began to think about what the pregnancy process was before, okay? I know how you get there, okay? But I don't know after that part. And I could tell you that there's a lot more to it than I ever imagined, okay? I just thought, great, this is over. We just enjoy the next 9 months till the baby shows up. But my expectations might have been just a little bit off, okay? We had to go to childbirthing classes. We learned how to breathe, and I think we went to one about how to massage a child and all this other stuff. And then we had to watch these videos of women actually giving birth. If they would have shown those first, we would have been like, no, we're done. We're done. This ain't happening. And I just remember, I think at one point I closed my eyes and it's just like, I'm on the boat. The waves are kind of just rolling a little bit. We're good. So, but then there were the baby showers, and you had to set up a nursery. I had to paint a whole nother room. I had to put stuff together. And then you start having to figure out, where am I going to store 40,000 boxes of diapers, because that's what everybody gives you nowadays because they're expensive. And I'm just like, wow. And the worst part is then you got people coming up to you and saying, man, my wife was in labor for like 17 days. And I think while you were telling me, why are you telling me this? Okay, 17, and she pushed so hard, she broke 3 blood vessels and her left eye popped out. And there's just a lot to get in 9 months. And honestly, it seems like maybe this whole thing needs to be more like an elephant. It takes like 22 months, okay? Excuse me. Okay, but I never said that to Jenny because it's not a good idea. And guys, just a little pro tip here. Don't bring up the 22 months. Pro tip, don't bring up the 22 months, okay? But I know it must have felt like to God's people that this was taking forever for the Messiah to come. And they're like, is he ever going to come? Just like it often seems in our life, like God is running late, but there's so much to do. God couldn't send his Son to be born of a woman until the time had fully come, until the time was fully ready. Okay? Now I want to ask you to stick with me just for a few minutes, okay? As I want to walk through some important developments for the timing to be perfect for this baby in Bethlehem to be born. So around 350 years before Jesus is born, Alexander the Great begins to rule Greece and Persia, and within about 12 years, he conquers the entire known world. It gave the world, for the very first time, a common language. And so Jesus would be born at a time where there really wasn't a language barrier, okay? Everybody could speak a common language, kind of like now everybody speaks some English, right? So there was not a language barrier. It was said in those days that everybody spoke a little Greek, and just like I said, everybody speaks a little English. So the world is being prepared so that the good news of Jesus could go viral quickly and get around. And around 280 years before Jesus was born, the Hebrew Old Testament was finally translated into Greek. because at the time, everybody could speak some Greek. And this was the first time people outside of the Jewish people were able to read about the true God and about the promise of the Messiah. And you start to see how God is preparing the world for the birth to be just at the right time. 63 years before Jesus was born, the Romans take over ruling the world from the Greeks. And about 35 years later, for the first time in history, we begin to see about a 200-year period of world peace, okay? Which created just the right environment for Jesus to be born. Caesar Augustus was the ruler, and some of you maybe have gone to visit his palace. It's in Vegas. I don't know if anybody's been there, Caesar's palace. I haven't been there yet, so, if somebody wants to go, let me know. But actually, this time of world peace was very confusing also because when these beauty contestants would go up and they'd be asked a question, what do you wish for? They already had world peace, so what are they going to say? They can't say world peace. Now, the roads and the traveling systems, they all opened up during this time. So people could travel freely just before Jesus was born. And there was this thing known as the diaspora, where the Jews were dispersed throughout the entire Roman world. And this was not something they were excited about, but God allowed this to happen so that the news of the Savior could spread quickly. And it was the right time for Jesus to come because of the influence of the great philosophers like Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato. People were asking all kinds of I knew I was going to do that. All kinds of really good questions about life and God, all right? And it's preparing for this moment. They're preparing for this moment that Jesus was about to come. They were going to answer the questions of why he would be born. And also, most importantly, when Jesus was born, it was the right time for the prophecies to be fulfilled. And it probably seemed to Joseph and Mary like the absolute worst time. When you read in Luke 2 that Caesar Augustus has issued a decree that the census should be taken, they would have to go to Bethlehem to register for the census. And when she's 9 months pregnant, right, talk about bad timing. It's not like you're hopping in your car, right? And you're taking off and it just rides nice and it's not that horrible of a ride. It's still uncomfortable. But it was not good timing. But it was God's timing and God's plan, because 700 years before Jesus was born, in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, it says he would be born in Bethlehem. And then in Isaiah 7:14, he also says he would be born of a virgin. See, there are like 300 prophecies like this in the Old Testament were made 100 years before Jesus was born. And that could only be fulfilled at one specific moment in history when the time had fully come and when the time was fully ready. You see, God's timing is different than our timing. And when time had fully come, when the world was united in one common language and God's word was translated into the common language so that anybody could understand it, and at the time of world peace and at the time that the message could travel, there would be God's people distributed throughout the world and people asking questions about the meaning of life. And at the moment 300 prophecies could be fulfilled, God sent his son, born of a woman, to bring answers, to bring hope, to bring new life to people that felt like old, dead stumps. And some just need to hang on right now in this season of deadness, because it's true. I'm telling you, God brings new life out of old dead stumps. But he does it in his timing, and it's always through his son. Now, we've said that, I didn't ask this before when I showed this picture, but have you ever seen something that just looks like this? Like an old dead stump. It looks like its days are over, its life is done, right? Somebody cut down a perfectly good tree, and it's just kind of sitting there. Now, and then you kind of look at this, and this happens. Just right out of the middle of it, out of an old dead stump, comes a new shoot. And we are reminded back when we read in chapter 11 from Isaiah, a shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him. Years ago in a barn in Bethlehem, a shoot came up from a stump of Jesse. Divinity stepped in humanity, royalty wrapped in rags, majesty in a manger, holiness in the filth of sheep and manure and straw, the creator of the universe now dependent on a teenage girl and a sleepy carpenter. Now, I heard about this Christmas program one year, and the ones where the kids always wore dad's bathrobe or whatever for it, and this one little boy got the part of the young innkeeper, and he wasn't happy about it because he had tried out for the part of Joseph, and he didn't get it. So he decided in his own mind that when Joseph and Mary would show up at the end, he was going to ruin the whole play. So when Joseph knocked on the door, he swung open the door, and Joseph said, "Do you have any room?" The innkeeper said, "We got so much room, come on in." Well, the little guy playing the part of Joseph was a really quick thinker. He sticks his head inside the door and looks around, comes back out and says, "There's no way I'm going to let my wife in a dump like that. Come on, Mary, we're going to the barn." 2,000 years ago, this shoot from the stump of Jesse was born in Bethlehem of a virgin, and he lived a perfect, sinless life. He started his ministry at the age of 30, and when he was baptized by his cousin John the Baptist, his teaching and miracles were amazing. He walked on water, he calmed storms, he made the sick well, and better yet, people that didn't even like church liked Jesus. See, Jesus included the excluded, he welcomed the messy, but the religious people of the day couldn't handle it because they're so focused on religion and doing good works that they couldn't focus on God's work in Jesus. So they bought off one of his disciples, they had him betrayed, arrested, mocked, spit upon, and beaten. Now I want you to think about this, and I know this is Christmas, but we're talking about this whole thing wrapped up really quick. Think about the fact that every time somebody's hand hit Jesus' face as he walked with the cross, Jesus made that hand knowing that that hand was someday going to hit him in the face, and he still made it anyways. How loving and merciful is God. Ultimately, they crucify him, they nail him to a cross, he hung there naked, bleeding for 6 hours to pay for our sin. And Jesus' final words on the cross were not, "I'm finished." But his last words were, "It is finished." He had finished paying off your sin debt, and I want you to remember that the cross is not given to us so that we could have it as a decoration. Okay, it's not something pretty to hang around your neck. The cross was a declaration of the love of God for you. The cross declared sin's debts have been paid, and we can be made brand new. So they took him off this cross and they put him in a borrowed tomb, which I love because they weren't going to be needing it for very long anyways. And 3 days later, when they rolled the stone away, there was an angel saying, "He is not here, he has risen." And the reason the stone rolled away was not so that Jesus could get out, but so that we could get in, so that we can be changed and be made into something brand new. One of my favorite scriptures is in 2 Corinthians 5:17, where it says, "Therefore, if anybody is new in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come." Now, I want everybody to look up at that, and I want you to reread it. But where it says, if anyone in the verse, I want you to replace it with your name. I want you to just substitute your name there. Therefore, if whatever your name is in Christ, you are a new creation. The old has gone, and the new has come. The greatest victory I could tell you about today is that 2,000 years ago, the same Jesus Christ that was born as this defenseless baby in Bethlehem, fulfilling over 300 prophecies surrounding his birth, 3 decades later died on the cross, and 3 days later he rose from the grave to make you into something brand new, and 2,000 years later he is still bringing life to what is dead. Jesus didn't come to make you weird. He came to make you brand new. He makes you into a new creation when you feel hopeless. He makes you into a new creation when you're discouraged. He makes you into a new creation when others have given up on you. And he makes you into a new creation when you can't forgive yourself. And he makes you into a new creation when you feel like everybody wants to keep you down. And he makes you into a new creation when your health is failing. He makes you into a new creation when your heart is broken. Listen to me, guys. Listen to me. Your past does not determine your identity. Your history does not define your destiny. And if anybody is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. And let me say it once again. God brings new life out of old dead stumps in his timing through his Son. I don't know, I get this illustration here, and I know this is going to be where we're going from stumps, where we're going to a bell on a stick. Okay? You're probably wondering what this has to do with all of this. This is actually a great illustration, and I love it. There's an old familiar saying called Saved by the Bell, right? Some of you in here who are my age are saying that was a great television show. It was subpar at best, let's just be honest. Okay? But back in the 1800s, there was this horrible cholera pandemic in the world, and tens of millions of people died, and quite a number of people developed an irrational fear of being buried alive. Because you would look dead, they would appear dead, but they weren't really dead. They're just sick. They didn't really know if it was a coma or something like that, so they developed what they call safety coffins. And the coffins had a bell like this that would be just above the ground at the burial site of the cemetery, and then there was a string that would run down into the ground, into the coffin, so that if the person kind of woke up, they could ring the bell, and they could say, hey, I'm not dead yet, I'm still breathing. Okay? All right, now stay with me now. Maybe you feel like your life is dead right now. Maybe you feel like your marriage is dead. Maybe your relationship with God is dead, or your family life is dead. Maybe your happiness and joy feels like it's dead. Maybe you feel like your future is dead, or your addiction is not dead. But listen, God brings new life out of old dead stumps, and in his timing through his Son. And today could be the day where you put hope in Jesus for the first time in your life. Or today could be the day where you restore and renew your faith in Jesus, knowing that only in him are we made a new creation. Today could be the day where you grab that string from the coffin of your life and you define and declare, I am not dead yet. My future isn't dead yet. My joy isn't dead yet. My marriage isn't dead yet. My family isn't dead yet. My recovery isn't dead yet. My healing isn't dead yet. Guys, Jesus' enemies, they spit on him. His best friends sold him out. The mob nailed him to a wooden cross, but Jesus didn't whine about it or point a finger. 3 days later, he busted out of the tomb saying, I'm not dead yet. So whenever you see green from this moment on and this Christmas and every day thereafter, let that be a reminder from God himself of the new life that he has for you. Every decorated green tree, every green sprig of garland, every frosted green cookie, every green candle, every green twinkling light, every green elf costume. May everything green remind you of the God that through his Son makes you and me into new creations. The old is gone, the new has come, and we are not dead yet. Let's pray. Father God, Lord, we thank you. Thank you for this time. I just thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to be able to speak. And I just want everybody to know, we're not dead yet. Even though we feel like we are not. Because through you, Lord, we can become a new creation. And Father, if anybody in here feels like that and they want to talk about it, Lord, let them come talk to any one of our staff members, the elders, or anybody here, Lord. We'll pray for them and tell them all about you. Let them ring that bell saying, I am not dead yet. Father, we just thank you for this opportunity today. In your name we pray. Amen.